Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is still in more trouble as the SignalGate fiasco continues. The Inspector General has been directed by the Pentagon and been assigned to investigate further into the message leak in the Signal chat where military attack plans were discussed in detail by him. The White House still downplays the seriousness of the war plans, timing, and weapon packages of the attack on Yemen, and that such information was not classified.
Following some breaking news here at this hour, and I want to pop this up as we do bring you the developments in a story that we have been tracking very, very closely here on Live Now. The Pentagon launching an investigation into whether Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth violated department policy by discussing military attack plans in a private Signal chat. This comes after The Atlantic reported that its editor-in-chief was accidentally included in the chat regarding plans for the U.S. military to strike the Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Pentagon's Inspector General Stephen Stebbins wrote in a memo, the probe will examine whether Hegseth improperly discussed operational plans for a U.S. offensive against the Houthis and will also review, quote, compliance with classification and records retention requirements. According to the Associated Press, Stebbins actually wrote a notification letter to Secretary Hegseth, and we do have a portion of that right there on your screen where you can see it. Quote, the objective of this evaluation is to determine the extent to which the Secretary of Defense and other DoD personnel complied with DoD policies and procedures for the use of a commercial messaging application for official business. Additionally, we will review compliance with classification and records retention requirements. The use of the Signal app, which has become known as SignalGate by many, came to light when journalist Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic was added to a text chain by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. That was just a few weeks ago here. The chain did include Hegseth, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, and others. It was a discussion to talk about those military operations against the Iran-backed Houthis. Now, the investigation was launched after the top Republican and Democrat on the Senate's Armed Services Committee requested it just last week. We did hear from Chairman Roger Wicker, a Republican from Mississippi, and Ranking Member Jack Reed, a Democrat from Rhode Island.
Your testimony that less than 2 weeks ago, you were on a Signal chat that had all of this information about F-18s and MQ-9 Reapers and targets on strike, and you in that 2-week period simply forgot that that was there. That's your testimony?
My testimony is I did not recall the exact details of what was included there.
That was not your testimony. Your testimony was that you were not aware of anything related to weapons packages, targets, and timing.
As the testimony yesterday continued on, there were further questions related to that, where I acknowledged that there was conversation about weapons, and I don't remember the exact wording that I used, but I did not recall the specific details that were included.
Director Gabbard, you've reasserted that there was no classified information. But let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the ODNI's classification guidance?
I'm familiar with it.
I've actually got a copy right here. If I read you a part of that guidance, I wonder if you could tell me what the level of classification indicated is. I'm reading from your classification guidance. And the criteria is information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack. Do you recall what your own guidance would suggest that be classified?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, but it would point to what was shared would fall under the DoD's classification system and the Secretary of Defense's authority.
So let me help you, because there's a very clear answer.
And what is not.
I guess you don't have it, but information providing, this is the ODNI guidance, information providing indication or advance warning that the U.S. or its allies are preparing an attack should be classified as top secret. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. I just point out that the DoD classification guidance is separate from the ODNI's classification guidance.
Do you think it would be materially different?
Ultimately, the Secretary of Defense holds the authority to classify or declassify.
Do you think it's likely that DoD guidance is materially different from what I just read?
I haven't reviewed the DoD guidance, so I can't comment.